Hey everybody, it's Dana. Welcome back to my Valentine's Day card series day 2, and we are still working with the Simon Says Stamp card kit for January, and I'm using some of the Nina paper in this card kit and one of the sentiments in this card kit. I absolutely love this card kit. I cannot say enough about it, but we're going to go ahead and get started with this sentiment, and I am actually going to be heat embossing this one. So I'm going to grab my Versamark ink, and I'm really going to give this a really good stamping of ink because I'm not using my Misty on this one today. So I'm going to make sure I get a good amount of ink on this. Now, while I'm posting this, or while I was making this video rather, this card kit was still available on SimonsSaysStamp.com. So hopefully once this video is published, you guys will still be able to get your hands on this kit. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and press down this stamp right in the middle of my paper. And I'm going to press that really hard because, like I said, I'm not using my Misty today on this one. So I'm going to press that down, and it looks like I got a good impression the first time around. So lucky me. Now I'm going to use some white embossing powder, and I'm going to go ahead and gingerly sprinkle that on. Now, I totally forgot to use my anti-static tool on this, but that's okay. It doesn't look like this paper has too much static on it. So I'm just making sure to kind of just keep where I sprinkle the embossing powder right over the sentiment. So not to kind of get the embossing powder everywhere. I think that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to go ahead and heat up my heat gun. And I'm going to get it heated really on high so it does not bow my paper that much when I'm going to heat back this embossing powder. So that's just a little tip to get your embossing powder to heat quickly. Make sure that your heat gun is really hot before you bring it to your paper. It really helps your embossing powder melt quicker and keeps your paper from bowing too much. So I'm going to heat from the front and the back and get that nice and melted. Now, moving on to the card, I am going to use this large Falling Hearts stencil, also from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm going to place that right on top of my card base, or my card panel that I just made. And I'm going to grab the Pretty Delicata pink shimmer cube that also comes in the kit, and a little finger dauber. And I'm going to go ahead and start laying down some really pretty, almost pastel-y pink hearts onto this card base. Now, I'm not going to be using the entire card base on this, but I wanted to go ahead and make sure that I filled up the card panel because I'm not quite sure yet where I'm going to be cutting down the card panel, but I do know I do not want to get any of these hearts over my sentiment. So I'm just making sure to just fill in some of the hearts around the sentiment, but not directly over the sentiment. I want to make sure that I keep that sentiment nice and crisp and just have the hearts colored in around it. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish that up. And now I can go ahead and pull back my stencil. And then we're going to have some really pretty hearts all the way around that gorgeous sentiment. Now I could just leave the card panel like this because I actually think it looks quite beautiful. But just that nice shimmer of pink on this panel. Now you can go ahead and stop here and go ahead and put a card together, but I'm just going to kick this up just a little bit more. So I went ahead and grabbed 2 of the dies from the Hero Arts Affinity dies, and I'm putting those together just with some washi tape so I can keep them together when I run them through my die cut machine a little bit later. This keeps them from moving around, and I know I have them set perfectly when I need them to be lined up a little bit later. So now I'm going to go ahead and bring back in that card panel that I was working on, and I'm going to line that up right over that sentiment. Now, the reason I did not want my sentiment to be covered, and the reason I did the entire card panel, is because this gives me some leeway of where I can place my hearts. So I'm going to go ahead and place down my 2 dies right there, and then I'm going to go ahead and run this through my die cut machine. Now since that's done and everything's cut out, I'm going to go ahead and use some of my Tonic Studios glue, and I'm going to go ahead and place this down on some of that gorgeous Schoolhouse Red cardstock. I really love the Desert Storm or the Craft Color cardstock with this red. So now I'm going to go ahead and start building up my card panel. So I'm going to place my heart down right into the middle of my card and lightly go ahead and tap that into place. Now any of the glue that I have, I'm kind of pressing around the heart, so if I do have any glue that's going to seep out, it's going to seep out into the middle of my heart. Now since that's set, I can go ahead and inlay back in my bigger heart, but I'm going to do this with foam tape. So I'm going to go ahead and grab myself some foam tape, and I'm going to cut right down the middle. I have some of the wider 3M foam tape, and I don't want to waste that. So I'm going to go ahead and cut down the center just with some scissors, and then I can go ahead and place down just some thinner pieces right across the back of my heart. Now I could have as well cut out a piece of fun foam to place on the back of this, but I just figured I can use my foam tape on this one and get the same exact look that I'm going for. So I'm just going to finish lining up the back of my pieces here. And I do want to add one more little piece right to that corner so it's even all the way around my heart. So I'm going to peel off the backing. Now this again is going to be a really simple card that you guys can mass produce if you want it to. But it's a simple and gorgeous way to make some of your Valentine's Day cards. So I'm going to peel that off, and now I'm going to go ahead and pop back in the center of my heart. Now I've done this on several cards before of just cutting out the center and placing it back in, but I really like this double heart effect on this card. Now I'm going to go ahead and tap that back into place, and then you can see just a peek of the red right around the outside. Now I want to add a couple more hearts on this, so I'm going to use some Hero Arts white ink on this and another one of the hearts from the kit. I'm going to use the solid one instead. Now when I use the white ink on this red cardstock, it is going to fade back a little bit, and I'm okay with that because once it fades back, it kind of gives me almost like a darker pink color. Instead of like a white heart, it almost looks like it's a shade of pink. So I'm going to go ahead and randomly place down some of my hearts. Now that's what I love about using some white ink on color cardstock, especially if the ink dries back a little bit on the cardstock. You kind of get a totally different look than what you were expecting. Now I could stamp this out and then add some clear embossing powder over it to kind of keep the crispness, excuse me, of the white. But I'm okay because this is a Valentine's Day card. So if this kind of fades back and gives me more of a pinky undertone, I'm totally okay with that. So I'm just going to give my card a once over and see if I need to fill in any more spots of where I might want to have some more of those hearts. And I'm just making sure to run off some of the hearts off the side of the paper as well. I think that looks fantastic. Just going to clean up my board right there. And look how cute. So we have a card that's full of hearts. We have the shimmer hearts, and then we have those white hearts. So now to finish off my card, I'm going to score a piece of Neenah Solar White 110-pound cardstock with my Teflon bone folder, and then I'm going to go ahead and bring back in that panel. So I'm just using my ATG gun to place myself some adhesive on the back. And then this card, you guys, is going to be done. How pretty is this one? I think this one so far might be my favorite, but I got a couple more things up my sleeve, so I shouldn't say that too quickly. Shouldn't say that too quickly. I'm going to go ahead and use my grid to help me line that up over my card base. And this is the second card you guys have seen me that I'm letting it take over the entire front of my card panel. So I'm going to go ahead and place that down. And that looks perfect. And then I'm going to go ahead and just tap that into place. And there we go. That is card number 2 for the Valentine's Day Card Series 2018. All right, you guys, here is the card totally done. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I will see you guys for the next video on day number 3 soon. See you guys soon. Bye-bye.